We're in Exodus, and we're starting off in chapter 10. And I think really this first chapter, I want to just fly through it tonight. Probably not read every word of this first chapter because I want to get to the Lamb. I want to get to the Lamb tonight. Exodus chapter 11 and 12 and 13. So this first chapter, let's just summarise, and let's do it by summarising everything from last week as well. Just in terms of last week, we came into the first 7 of the plagues, didn't we? The first 7. And I was saying last week, so it's like a boxing match, this. It's like a 12-round boxing match. And it's going the distance because Pharaoh is hard of heart and he's digging his heels in. And round 1, remember, ding ding, round 1 was when God said, go and tell Pharaoh this. Go and tell him that Israel is my son, my firstborn, and let them go. And if you don't let them go, I'm going to kill your firstborn. That was round 1, and that was quite clear. Yah was straight up front about it. Let my people go. Israel's my firstborn son. You don't let them go, I'm going to kill your firstborn. And that was the end of round 1, because Pharaoh just said, get out of here. I've never heard of this Yahovah. Who's Yahovah? That I should listen to him? There's no chance. Get out of here. And the people aren't getting set free either. Go on, beat it. That was round 1. Round 2, God said, right, go back, and this time Aaron, throw your rod on the floor, and it will become a crocodile. Remember, it wasn't a serpent, it was a tiny, it became a crocodile. And Pharaoh's magicians copied it, and they threw down their rods, and they became crocodiles, and Aaron's rod ate their rods. But that wasn't enough for Pharaoh. That was round 2, and Pharaoh wasn't having any of it. Ding ding, round 3. And this is where we were up to last week. We went through these first plagues last week. The first plague, which is round 3, was when the Nile got turned to blood, wasn't it? And I've got a little list here. Jonathan's going to try and put a link to it. Just for your own information, it's called Your Living Waters Torah Commentary. Very, very, very good Torah commentary. Your Living Waters. And this one, it's only a little 2-pager, and it's amazing. And they just focus on what was going on here with these plagues. We were talking in the kitchen before, came with me about it. And the list here, the first plague was the river Nile turned to blood, and they had a god that they worshipped in Egypt called Happy, H-A-P-I, Happy, and that was the god of the Nile. And so God, showing our God, the real one true living God, was showing here and dismantling their false system of worship. And just like it says about Yeshua, he destroyed principalities and powers and made a show of them openly. Well, that's what God's doing here. He's making a show there. God's going, what? You've got a God of the Nile. What's this? And turns it into blood. The second plague, round 4, was the plague of frogs. And that's because the Egyptians had a frog-faced God. A frog-faced God called Hekt, H-E-Q-T. Round 5 was the plague of lice. And that was because they had a god called Seb. It was the earth god, and that's what that plague was, wasn't it? The dust of the ground turned into lice. God's just dismantling their structure, showing you, these aren't gods, I'm the real God. Because that's what Pharaoh said. Who is Jehovah? Who is the Lord? I don't know. God's going, I'm going to show you who I am. You don't know who I am. I'm going to give you a fair chance to recognise who I am, and to bow the knee and accept that I'm God, and let my people go, and it's all over, Pharaoh. It's all you got to do. Just let my people go, and it'll be sound. Pharaoh's like that. What? No sense. Well, that was round 5, plague 3. Round 4 was the swarm of flies. I'm just recapping here, because we didn't manage to record it last week either, did we? So, just recapping it. Round 6, the plague 4, was the god of insects, Kefi. And so that plague was a swarm of flies. You can see every god's being dismantled. The 5th plague was when God plagued the cattle. And that's because they had a cow-faced God. You can understand now in a few weeks when the children of Israel create their own God and they make a calf, they're just being Egyptian. Because the Egyptians had a load of gods that look like animals.
Like Hindus.
Like Hindus, there's nothing new under the sun, is there? There's all this manner of religions throughout the world, and they've all got weird gods. And that's the same as the Egyptians. This is where it comes from. So God then, that 5th plague, was when the livestock got stuck because they had a god called Hathor, who had a face like a cow. The 6th plague was, you've heard this one probably, Imhotep. Imhotep is the god of medicine. So that's why God judged that god with a plague of boils. Remember, all the boils were breaking out on them. And we mentioned last week that a lot of these plagues in a different order get replayed in the book of Revelation. A lot of this is in the book of Revelation. The 2 witnesses, they can turn their rivers into blood. A lot of the plagues are repeated. So these are heads up for what's about to come upon the whole earth. But always remember, God made a difference, didn't he? He said, I'm going to now make a difference between the land of Egypt and the land of Goshen. And all my people in the land of Goshen aren't going to be affected by this. It's going to affect all you Egyptians, but my people, they're going to be safe and sound, just like the days we're coming into. Just like the days we're coming into. He's going to protect us. He's going to keep us safe in this time. You know, we're not going to trust in our own devices here. We're going to just trust our God to look after us and keep us safe as a witness. And that's what this was in Goshen. It was a witness. That's why we'll see next week loads more than just Israel came out of Egypt. It says a mixed multitude of nations came out. All kinds of people were getting this and going, wow, this is the real God. Let's get involved with Israel. That's the gospel message, isn't it? So that was the 6th plague. The 7th plague is where we left off last week. The 7th plague, they had a god called Nut, or probably Nut, N-U-T. I think that's what I'd call it, Nut. A god called Nut, and that was the sky goddess. And that's why that plague that Yah chose was the plague of hail and fire. You think that you've got a God in the sky, I'm the God of the sky, and I'm the gods of heaven and earth. And so he was showing them, your gods are a waste of time. They're just a waste of time. They're a figment of your own imagination. So that's where we finished last week, plague number 7. Now, it's plague number 8. Ding ding, round 10. This is the plague of locusts. And again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I want to get into the next bit. But this is again repeated in Revelation chapter 9. You see the plague of locusts. So this is just all what's going to happen in the future. There's nothing new under the sun. These things have happened and they will happen again. Get ready for the plague of locusts upon this earth, and they are fearsome, with stings in their tails like scorpions, and they have power to sting people and afflict them for 5 months. But it says those with the mark of God will not be touched. This is what it says. So we're going to see a repeat of this. We will not be touched. That's what it says. So let's just have a little bit of a read. But I don't want to spend too much time in this first chapter. Chapter 10, the portion is called Bo. And you know what that name means now, don't you? Because we say it all the time here. Boi Kallah. And the name of our little fellowship is called Boi Kallah, because it means come bride. Come to me, my bride. Boi Kallah. And Boi means come, Lord. This is what the spirit and the bride is supposed to sound like, aren't they, in Revelation? The spirit and the bride say, come. And in Hebrew, that would be Bo. Which is strange because in our translations it says, chapter 10, verse 1, now Yehovah said to Moshe, go.
Well, it says here, go.
Go. Most of them say go, but it's actually come. It's actually come. And so what do you understand by this is that what God's saying to Moshe is, I'm already there, mate. I've already gone before you. Come here. Come to Pharaoh, because I'm there. I've already been before you. I'm waiting for you. There's no way you can flee, no way you can go from my presence. I'm everywhere, Moshe. So come rather than go. It's just our translation says go, but the word in Hebrew for bow means come. Come, bow is sure. So he's saying, come into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart, and the hearts of his servants. What for? That I may show but these signs of mine before him. And I haven't mentioned this so far, but I want to just reveal what this word means to you. These signs of mine. You know it, Joan, and you know what that word is in Hebrew. What's the word for sign? Sign. Oat. The word for sign in Hebrew is oat. And the way you spell that in Hebrew is Aleph, Vav, Tav. Aleph, Vav, Tav. And you know who that is, don't you? You know that Yeshua wasn't Greek, was he? He didn't really go, I'm the Alpha, I'm the Omega. I'm surprised he didn't put A to Z in me. I'm surprised they haven't translated it into I'm the A to Z. What Yeshua is really saying is, I am the Aleph and the Tav, the first letter and the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And the Vav in Hebrew is the word for and, isn't it? Vav is and. Vav is a picture of a nail that connects things. So the word for sign is Aleph and Tav. And that's what Yeshua reveals himself as. I am the Aleph and the Tav. I am the sign. He is the sign. That's what it says in Isaiah. I will give you as a sign. A sign. And Yeshua is saying, I am the sign. He is the sign. So that's a good Hebrew word that you can learn there. Oat. Aleph. Vav. Tav. Oat. Signs. So that's what he's saying here. I'm doing all this to show my signs. So you'll know who I am. And then later on in the portion tonight, this is all. So you can tell your children. Tell your children about this. Tell them who I am. Get to know this story more than anything in your life. Get familiar with this and tell everyone about it. Because it's God's way of demonstrating who he is. That's why there's people going, I'm not sure if this Moses is real. It's like, what? He's real. He is real. And that's what it says. Now verse 2, that you may tell it is. You may tell in the hearing of your son and your son's son the mighty things that I have done in Egypt and my signs which I have done among them, that you may know I am Yahovah. I am Yod Hey Vav Hey. I am who is, who was, and who is to come. That's what he wants people to understand here. So Moshe, verse 3, and Aaron came into Pharaoh and said to him, thus says Yehovah, the Elohim of the Hebrews, how long, Pharaoh, will you refuse to just humble yourself before me? Let my people go that they may serve me. Or else, if you refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow, because we said that last week, Pharaoh likes tomorrow, doesn't he? When do you want me to get these frogs out of here, Pharaoh? Tomorrow! It's like, what? You want to wait till tomorrow? Well, it's up to you, it's your choice. You want to wait till tomorrow? I could have done it right now, you'd have asked, but you want to do tomorrow? Okay. And we mentioned last week, just because it wasn't taped and you can hear it again, tomorrow is the language of fools. Yeshua has said, take no thought for tomorrow. James has said, you're going to do what? You're going to do what tomorrow? You having a laugh? You don't even know you're going to be here tomorrow. This is all boasting and pride and arrogance, this. And what God wants us to, he wants us to be today people. He wants us to be now people. That's what Psalm 95 says and Hebrews 3 and 4 says. Today, if you hear his voice, don't harden your hearts like they did. It's about hearing his voice, and all we can do is pray for that. Please, Lord God, help us to hear your voice, because you have said, Yeshua has said, my sheep will hear my voice, and your voice, Lord, is the most beautiful thing ever. I mean, your voice is everything. So please let us hear your voice more clearly than ever. And let us understand your voice and obey your voice. Amen. Amen. So that's a tomorrow message, which we don't want into. But tomorrow, God's dealing with Pharaoh on his terms. He's a tomorrow person. So tomorrow, I'll bring locusts into your territory. Verse 5, and they'll cover the face of the earth, and so on. I don't want to laugh. No, you can read this yourself. That's the 8th plague of the locusts upon the land. Verse 13, Moshe stretched out his rod over the land of Egypt, and Yahovah brought an east wind. Wind in Hebrew is ruach, isn't it? Ruach, same word as spirit. Yeah, breath. East is always a time in the past, A time in an ancient place is the east. And so whatever that means, he brought an east wind on the land all that day and all that night. When it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts, and the locusts went up over all the lands of Egypt and rested on the territory of Egypt. They were very severe. Previously there had been no such locusts as they, nor shall there be such after them. For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened, and they ate every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left. So there remained nothing green on the trees, or on the plants of the field, throughout all the lands of Egypt. And again you see that in Revelation when God says, do not destroy the green things. You can't destroy the green things. And it's like, again, it's a picture of the protection we will have. So it's going to be miraculous. It's going to be amazing. We are this generation that's going to see these things. So let's get ready. Amen. Verse 20, where should we go? Got to read this bit. Verse 16, we've seen this last week. Pharaoh called for Moshe and Aaron in haste and said, I have sinned against Yahovah your Elohim and against you. Now therefore, please forgive my sin only this once, and entreat Yahovah your Elohim that he may take away from me this death only. So he went out from Pharaoh and entreated Yahovah, and Yahovah turned a very strong west wind, came in on the east wind, and they go out on the west wind, which took the locusts away and blew them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the territory of Egypt, but Yahovah hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go. This is what we seen last week. Last week Pharaoh came with all this. Oh, I've sinned. Just pray for us, will you, Moshe? And as soon as Moshe prayed last week, the plague stopped. But Pharaoh hardened his heart. He hardened his heart last week, it said. Pharaoh got all proud, it said. It got a very lifted up heart. And he thought, I'm Pharaoh. I'm not letting the people go. Who's this God? Oh, same situation again. And only last week, when he said he had sinned, he didn't follow it up with action. It was just lip service. Oh, I'm sorry, get this out of here. People are like that, aren't they? Oh God, oh, I'll never do it again. Oh, well, just this once, if you help me out this time. And then you never see them again. It's like that is, God knows what people are like. We need to humble ourselves. Don't let us be proud like that. We need you, Lord. We need you so much. Amen. So don't let us be proud like this. Don't let us harden our hearts like this. Soften our hearts, Lord. Cleanse us from within. Yes. Like we read last night. Create in us a pure heart and renew a right spirit within us. Because we know what our flesh is like. We know what the enemy's like. And we know what we're like. So that's why we're humbling ourselves and asking you, give us soft, tender hearts, Lord. Please. Amen. Sorry, beg your pardon. So that was the eighth God, and that was Seth. Seth, the protector of the fields and produce. So God's going, you've got a God called Seth, have you? He looks after the fields and produce, does he? What's this? Come on, locusts. That was the eighth plague, yeah? Seth.
This was Seth.
Seth was the eighth plague, the locusts, yeah? The ninth plague is the plague of darkness. And you've heard this God before, Horus. Horus, the sun god. So you've got a sun god out there. Right, watch this. You think you've got a God in charge of the sun, do you? Watch this then. This is chapter 10, verse 21. Then Yah said to Moshe,
how many churches, they have like a placard with IHS on, which stands for his service. But it's as Horus and Seth.
It's infiltrated everywhere. It's infiltrated everywhere. This is the devil. This is the devil. That's why we need the word so much. We want the true God. That's all we want to serve. The one true God. And he has revealed who he is here. This journey is wonderful. I'm sure you all agree. This is a wonderful journey. Verse 21. Then Yehovah said to Moshe, here's that phrase again. Keep saying it. Stretch out your hand towards heaven, that there may be darkness over the lands of Egypt, darkness which may even be felt.
Yeah.
That is serious darkness, that.
Yeah.
You can feel it. So Moshe, verse 22, stretched out his hands towards heaven, and there was thick darkness in all the lands of Egypt for 3 days. 3 days of darkness. They did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 whole days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. Hallelujah! Because we're not the sons of darkness, we're the sons of light, aren't we? We're the sons of light.
I read about in Israel in 96, we had Lord Lambert speaking to us, and there was power cut out everywhere,
Wow.
except the room where the 96
Wow.
of us was.
Wow.
And the little Arabs running around saying, "You got light, you have you got light?"
Amen. 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 Yeah, it's Goshen. It's what's going to happen. Again, it's another Revelation plague. Revelation chapter 16. Darkness comes again. There's another plague of darkness in Revelation 16.
Also the darkness of the crucifixion as well.
That's a good point. 3 hours before Yeshua died, from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, it went dark.
Yeah.
It went dark. I wonder why as well, that is. You know, I just wonder whether there was signs in the heavens going on at that time, and that's why it went dark, so you could see them. Who knows?
Well, what someone said, Steve, is that the people wouldn't see the transaction between Jesus and God, you know, him dying on the cross.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, you know, so...
Okay, but it says for 3 hours, doesn't it, before he died, so yeah, okay.
One of the people give the life of God, but when they raise up and down, people do evil work with bodies.
All of these plagues that are coming in Revelation, they are all to reach out. This is God trying to reach out to people and say, come on, repent will you, repent.
What I was just saying before about the plagues, this thing you come on about Australia, that was the plague of locusts, I think about 10 years ago. And the plague of locusts, it blacked out, it was 150 miles long by 30 to 40 miles wide, and it blocked out the daylight. And everything that was green was just eaten.
Wow, this is what they do, man.
And they said at the end time these things will happen.
That's it, mates, we're getting ready now. No, really, we need to be aware of this now. This is not science fiction, this is what's going to happen. So we need to be based on it. So this is...
These are the birth pains, brother.
Yeah, that's
right.
These are birth pains.
I know these are wonderful times to be alive.
Man, let's get courageous, let's ask for boldness. We don't want to be shrinking back in these days, we want to be strong. Those who know their God will be strong and do exploits. Daniel 11. So there's darkness everywhere, but not in Goshen, and the Israelites have got light in their dwellings because they are the people of the God of light. Yeshua is the light of the world, and he said to us that you are the light of the world. Shine your light before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So we have got works to do, not to be saved, but because we're saved. Because we're saved. We don't get saved by works, but we are saved to do good works. And faith without works is dead. So let's just get alive. Let's live. Verse 24, Pharaoh called Moshe and said, "Oh, go and serve Yahweh. Only let your flocks and your herds be kept back. Let your little ones also go with you." In the last week, Pharaoh had said, "You can go, but you can't take the kids." And Moshe's going, "No chance, there's no way, we're all going." Now Pharaoh's like that, you can go, but you can't take your cattle with you. Moshe's like that, "Lad, there's no chance, we're taking their cattle as well." Verse 26, 25, Moshe said, "You must also not only be taking our cattle, Pharaoh, but guess what? We need some of yours as well, mate. You must also give us sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice to Yahweh our Elohim." Verse 26, "Our livestock also shall go with us. Not a hoof, Pharaoh, not a hoof is getting left behind, lad. Not a hoof. For we must take some of them to serve Yahweh our Elohim. And even we don't know. We don't even know yet what we must serve him with until we get there." But Jehovah hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, "Get away from me. Take heed to yourself and see my face no more, for in the day you see my face you shall die. So Moses said, you have spoken well. I will never see your face again. Chapter 11. So we've only, till we get going really, so we want to spend all our time in these next chapters now. It's amazing. Hallelujah. This is chapter 11. The last round, 12, ding, ding.
That's the God, please.
This is the God of this one. Now this is the famous one.
This Ra.
Amun Ra. Amun Ra.
Ra.
Amun Ra. Exactly, John. Amun Ra is the last of these hordes of Egyptian gods. And Amun Ra is the main one. Amun Ra is the creator god in the Egyptian culture. And Amun Ra and Pharaoh have this relationship where Pharaoh is the son of Amun Ra. And Amun Ra can take on human form and become Pharaoh, so that when he can impregnate Pharaoh's wife, to make sure that Pharaoh's offspring are really Amun Ra's offspring. This is the theology of the Egyptians. This final god was the father god, if you like, the chief god, and Pharaoh thought he was the personification of this god, and that's why God is going to judge this god now, and it's going to be connected with the death of the firstborn. It's like, Pharaoh, you think you're the son of this god, you think you're this god in the flesh, right? I'm going to show you now exactly who I am and who you are. Just like he said in round 1, when he said, let my people go, because Israel's my firstborn, and if you don't let them go, I'm going to destroy your firstborn. It's so much part of their culture what he's attacking. The religious system is based upon this false god. And this last god, Amun Ra, it is the shape. There's a picture of it here. John might put it up. We've got no chance of seeing it. It's on this Jordan and waters, and it's a picture of a ram, big, like the way you got the sphinxes. Well, this sphinx is a ram, same sort of size, big, massive ram. It's a ram, and Pharaoh is standing under his legs. Just please, he's standing under his legs, just a statue, and I just lose my train of thought. This Pharaoh is protected by this sheep god called Amun Ra, and that's why God's going to judge this god, and he's going to use a lamb to do it with. That's why we started off tonight with Revelation chapter 5, to really draw our attention now to what our faith's all about. It's all about the Lamb of God. It's all about the Lamb of God. In Revelation, I think it's 29 times there's a reference to the Lamb. Our names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. I'm not being funny. If God wanted us to worship a bunny, he could have done it. He could have said, now get a rabbit, and I want you to kill this rabbit. Why? Because I'm going to create a lovely festival called Easter, and you're all going to have Easter eggs off the Easter bunny. I'm going to get this rabbit to go round and lay little eggs in your garden, and get all your kids to go and hunt for these little eggs. The creator of the universe could have done that. If he wanted us to worship the rabbit of God, he could have done it. But he wants the lamb. Didn't want an Easter bunny. And that's how pathetic that, this fate's being hijacked, that people celebrate this strange festival from this goddess, this fertility, bare-breasted goddess called Ishtar, and it's called Easter. And they go looking for Easter egg bunnies, eggs from the Easter bunny.
What did he say?
Rabbits don't give birth to eggs, like, they just don't. It doesn't even make sense. I know I'm saying it's an abomination, it's disgraced, and this is the roots of it all. The creator of the universe wanted us to worship a lamb. He wanted us to understand that this whole redemption process is through a lamb. And that's why it's so important, this chapter now, these next couple of chapters. So, just try and dig in with us, we can watch it again, take notes, but it's so powerful this. I'm going to reveal something tonight, which, as I've loved it this week, I have loved the word of God this week. It's beautiful. Chapter 11, let's get into it. The death of the firstborn. And Jehovah said to Moshe, I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. Afterwards, he will let you go from here. When he lets you go, he will surely drive you out of here altogether. Garash, we've seen that when Abraham, God said, drive out the slave woman. The son of the bondwoman will not be an heir with my son. Drive out the bondwoman. And Pharaoh's going to drive you out of here. Speak now, verse 2, in the hearing of the people, and let every man ask from his neighbour, and every woman from her neighbour, articles of silver and articles of gold. Mentioned this last week, we'll look at it in a minute. Genesis chapter 15, God had already shown Abraham this. When I bring out the people, they're going to come out with great possessions. And here's the fulfilment of that now. Go and ask them, go and knock on the doors. Not being funny, got some gold please? Can I get a silver? It's like, I don't know all over that. Yeah, amen. Sorry, I was using it to say, yeah. Verse 3, and Yahweh gave the people favour in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moshe was very great in the land of Egypt. Everyone's on it going, wow, this Moshe, don't mess with him. All he's got to do is lift his hands to heaven and darkness comes. Our magicians, they've all got off ages ago. They got off with the boils, didn't they? They were like that. We can't, we're all full of boils. It says in the plague 8 that even the Pharaoh's magicians were going, Pharaoh, come on, lad. Have a look around you. Egypt's destroyed, mate. The land's finished. We're in a mess. Just give in, Pharaoh. Even Pharaoh's magicians were just packing it a couple of plagues ago. Now, everyone's like that. Moshe, he's great in the sight of Pharaoh. Verse 4, and Moshe said, thus says Jehovah, about midnight, I will go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of the female servants who is behind the handmill, all the firstborn of the animals. There will be a great cry throughout all the lands of Egypt, such as was not like it before, nor shall be like it again. But against none of the children of Israel shall a dog move its tongue against man or beast, that you may know Yahweh makes a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. Amen. That's what it's saying. Yahweh knows how to separate his people. He knows how to separate the sheep from the goats. He knows who it is. He knows everything. Knows everyone's heart. And it's the best thing you can do, isn't it? It's place things like Psalm 139. Know me, God. Search me, Lord God. Try me out. If there's any wicked way in me, please get it out of me, Lord. Please, you're able to do this. But he wants us to come before him in that way and just pour out our hearts and ask him to do this work of grace in our lives. It's brilliant. God makes a difference. Verse 8, and all these servants shall come down to me and bow down to me, saying, get out, all the people who follow you. After that I will go out. Then he went out from Pharaoh in great anger. But Yahweh said to Moshe, Pharaoh will not heed you, so that my wonders may be multiplied in the lands of Egypt. So Moshe and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go out of his land. Chapter 12. This is, what a chapter. Behold the Lamb. You know, we did this on Sunday, and I know you got married, didn't you? You seem to really just get the whole concept of the Lamb here. Because let me just go gospel on you for a sec. You've done a lots of gospels, you've heard this, but if you haven't, you might not have heard this. When Yeshua first came out of the wilderness, after he'd been baptized and he went into the wilderness for 40 days and nights, it's when he comes out the wilderness, that's when John the Baptist says, behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. And then he says it again the next day to his disciples, behold the Lamb of God. And that is the only time in the Gospels that Yeshua gets called the Lamb of God. You're all familiar with the phrase, but it's only twice in the Gospels that Yeshua gets called the Lamb of God. And it's by John the Baptist, whose mum and dad, Elisheva and Zechariah, were Levites. And John the Baptist was a 400% Levite. And he wasn't part of that nonsense system that was going on at the temple, that corrupt system. John the Baptist was God's priest. He was God's priest, a bloodline priest. And he was the man that got the task of, you reveal who the Messiah is to Israel. That's what John said, this is the reason I've come. I was just sitting off really, minding my own business, and God said to me, the one you see the Spirit descend on like a dove, and you hear my voice, that is the one. And that was John's testimony. He said, this is my testimony. Go and tell them people in Jerusalem that I've sent you. Go and tell them that I witnessed that, and I am telling you, this is the Son of God. It was so clear. John the Baptist's testimony was so clear. I have witnessed who this man is. It's the Son of God. And his testimony to his disciples was, behold the Lamb of God. Amen. And that title is everything to do with this chapter now. The Lamb of God. The Passover Lamb of God. It says this in Corinthians. Paul says, the Messiah is our Passover. Therefore, this is the New Testament, you know. Therefore, let us keep the feast. That's what Paul says. You know, in the New Testament. You know, the New Testament, you know, the same fellow that's opposed to God. It's all away with now. When he actually says, the Messiah is our Passover. Therefore, let's keep the feast. Let's keep the feast of Passover. That's what he's saying. Well, let's do away with it. Not let replace it with Easter. No, he is, the Messiah is our Passover. Therefore, let us keep the feast. So, that's just to really stress now, please behold the Lamb. And Father, please help us to behold the Lamb. Give us eyes to see the Lamb. Give us eyes to see the Lamb in your word. Help us to discern who the Lamb of God is and be able to examine and test everything about him so that we know that we have got the right Lamb, the Saviour. Yes. Amen. Chapter 12. Now, this is very interesting. Jehovah spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be your beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So, forgive me if I haven't been saying Happy New Year to you all for the last couple of weeks, since January the 1st. And the reason I haven't is because it wasn't the new year. It just simply isn't the new year. This is the new year. No, I'm just saying, if you want to have a biblical faith, let's have a biblical calendar. And it's so clear here that God is saying that from now on, this month is now the first month of the year. That's what it says, isn't it? Yeah. It's the first month of the year, and it will always be that way. God's saying, now, I have changed the calendar, and now the day, the month you came out of Egypt, that is the first month of the year. You need to understand this. Bill Bullock said a great thing in his commentary I was reading, and he said the first step of transitioning from slaves of Pharaoh and slaves of this world system, the first step is to understand the Creator's calendar. That's the first step of transitioning from this slave nation into God's people. And that's what God's doing. In Egypt, they had a sun god calendar. They worshipped the sun. And it was all evolving around this false sun god, Ra. And God's saying, right, from now on, I want to change your calendar, and it's going to be a lunar calendar. Yeah. You're going to see the new moon, and that is going to say to you that this is the first day of the month. And that's what we looked at last week briefly. When we came out of Egypt, it said, didn't it, that the barley was Aviv, and it meant that the barley was ripe, and the barley was ready to be harvested, and it was all lovely and long and growing. But because it was in that state of being Aviv, when the hail came, it crushed the barley. The barley got crushed. And that's what the Creator's saying. Like the rabbis now have got a calendar for the next 1,000 years, and you can tell you when Passover is every year. Well, I don't know how they can possibly know that, because it's only by examining the condition of the barley harvest in the land that you can tell us, is the barley Aviv? Is the barley ripe? Well, if the barley's ripe, we have come to that time of year that God brought us out of Egypt. That's simply the way it is. It's not hard, this. It's simple. It's just that you've got to, this is what Paul's saying. Be renewed. Be transformed by the renewing of your minds. Renew your minds now. get off pagan calendars.
Happy dog.
Yeah, get onto God's calendar. You know, try and break away from going Happy New Year on January the 1st. It's like, it's January the 1st. It's midnight on December the 31st, and everyone's going ballistic, letting off fireworks as if it's the new year. But this year, I went out to look at the fireworks with Jess, and there was a big full moon in the sky. And a full moon means that it's the middle of the month. A full moon means it's the middle of the month.
Yeah.
So on the first day of the pagan calendar, the moon was saying, no, it's not the first day, it's all, we're in the middle of the month again.
Right.
It's up to yourselves. I'm just saying, I've got a biblical calendar and I love it. I'm connected with the creator of the universe and I'm following his calendar, and it has the effect on you, on me, of synchronizing with his time. That's why I am so, he is coming soon, you know. He is coming soon. I'm synchronized with him, and I know he is coming soon because I'm on his calendar and I celebrate his feasts, and his feasts are the way he is programming us to understand his message and his time. So,
It's the happy dog.
well, it is.
The talent, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So, you know what, I've just rambled on this and I just lose time and everything. And I'm missing out here on what I want to get to, so could we just crack on, is that alright? Just crack on a bit. Sorry, it's down to me, it's my fault. So, let's just get on with it. So look, you can read it yourself, but it is what it is, it says what it says. I love the Creator's calendar. I love it. Last night was the new moon. The new moon was sighted in Israel last night, and it tells in the way to celebrate this. Paul says in Colossians chapter 2, Paul says in Colossians chapter 2, don't let anyone judge you regarding Sabbaths and regarding feasts and regarding the new moon, because they are shadows of things to come. And this is what Paul says. They are shadows of things to come. Don't let anyone judge you about keeping these feasts and keeping to a biblical calendar. So, you know, forgive me for not saying Happy New Year on January the 1st, but it's been far too early. Verse 3, speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, there's so much to get through here. On the 10th day of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, then let him and his neighbour next to his house take it according to the number of the persons. According to each man's need, you shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb, this is so important now, your lamb shall be without blemish. Yes. Look at this bit. A male of the first year. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. Now you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at twilight. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel of the house where they eat it. Then they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire, with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Don't eat it raw, nor boiled with water, but roasted in fire, its head with its legs and its entrails. You shall let none of it remain until the morning, and what remains until morning you shall burn with fire, and thus you shall eat it, with a belt on your waist, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. You shall eat it in haste. Remember we were doing the Torah in Genesis, and we kept on seeing everyone was running in haste. Everyone, haste, haste, make haste. This is the language of God now. We're in that time now. Make haste, everyone. Make haste. Don't be slothful now. Make haste. Eat it in haste. It is Yahovah's Passover. For verse 12, I will pass through the lands of Egypt on that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the lands of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am Yahovah. Now the blood shall be a sign again, an Aleph, Vav, Tav, and note, the blood shall be the Aleph and the Tav. That's what Yeshua said. I am the Aleph and the Tav. It's my blood that's redeemed you. And that's what this is saying. The blood of this lamb of the first year, shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. So this day shall be to you a memorial, a zikron, a memorial, and you shall keep it. Shemeh. Shemeh means guard, protect it, like your life. Guard this day. Don't let anyone steal this from you. Don't let any Roman Catholic nutcase try and convince you that this is a festival called Easter. Protect this festival. It's called Passover. Keep it throughout as a feast to Yahuwah throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an everlasting ordinance. Verse 15, 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. On the first day there will be a Mikra Kodesh, a holy convocation, isn't it? Mikra Kodesh, holy gathering. It's in Paleo Hebrew, Mikra means a reading. It's a time to get together, and like you refer to the Haggadah, it's a time to retell this story. I want you to all tell your children about this. All get together, and this is what the body of Messiah, the believers of Yeshua, everyone should be doing this. It's not an optional extra for a few cranks that want to get into the Hebrew. It's like, this is for the people of God. Everyone who calls themselves by the name of God, this is for them. You should be acquainted with this Passover. This is our salvation.
Even the blood on the doorposts and the lintels, symbolic of the appearance of the cross.
I like that. So what Marion's saying is the doorpost and the lintel is a picture of the cross, the upright and the horizontal post. That's a nice point. That's why the blood goes on. I mean, I wanted to spend so much more time on this, but time just clacks on. What?
He's the door as well.
He's the door. Yeshua's the door. That's why I said put the blood on the doorposts. Thanks for this, and I'm sure you've got loads more information on it, but there's a place I want to get to tonight, which I don't think many of you will have heard before, so I want to get there as soon as I can, and then spend as much time as you can. So the first day is there's going to be a holy convocation, verse 16, and on the 7th day there's a holy convocation. I remember Joe saying to me that ages ago, Joe, no one really understands how this 7th day is being fulfilled yet, which leads me to think it hasn't been. I think, no, it hasn't been. It's probably a very end time reason for this.
And everyone will be called to the big feast.
Yeah.
There's no time on that.
Right, so there could be a 7th day of this feast of Passover. Well, it's in there for a reason. I don't think there's much understanding on why this 7th day has been put there, so I do agree with you. It's yet to be fulfilled. Maybe, let's see. No longer work shall be done on them, but that which everyone must eat. That's so you can make food, you say, on this day, but it's not, the first day of unleavened bread and the 7th day, the creator of the universe has told us, don't work on them days. Don't work on them days. It's a day of rest. I want you meditating in this on that day. I want you doing it as a congregation. Verse 17, so you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for on this same day I will have brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations as an everlasting ordinance. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. The 7 days, no leaven shall be found in your houses, since whoever eats with it which is unleavened, that same person shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he's a stranger or a native in the land. You shall eat nothing leavened in all your dwellings, you shall eat unleavened bread. Verse 21, then Moshe called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, pick out and take lambs for yourselves according to your families and kill the Passover lamb. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop dip it in the blood that is in the basin and strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts. I mean, you've heard the mezuzah, haven't you? The mezuzah, people put a mezuzah there. Well, that's what the word in Hebrew is for doorposts. The Hebrew word for doorpost is mezuzah.
And you put scriptures inside.
Yeah, well, that's tradition, that's what you do.
61, yeah.
Yeah. But God said to us, you know, to put the blood on it, and later on in Deuteronomy he'll tell us to write the commandments on your doorposts. So you can see how this all works together. The blood of the Messiah and the commandments. This is what it says in Revelation. They overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the words of their testimony. This is having the commandments on our lips, the word of God on our lips. So put the blood on the doorposts and little. And verse 23, Yahovah will pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to strike you. What a miracle this is. I mean, what a miracle this is. All pointing towards Yeshua, that whoever is under Yeshua, who's covered by his blood, will escape and will be part of God's kingdom forever. Only this way, though. Only this way. Whoever didn't do this, they would die in the firstborn. Verse 24, you shall observe this thing for an ordinance for you and your sons forever. It will come to pass when you come to the land which Yahovah will give to you, just as he promised, that you will keep this service. And it shall be when your children say to you, what do you mean by this service? When kids ask you, and kids are good at that, aren't they? What's going on here? Why are we doing this? Now it's like, oh, why is that fella coming down the chimney? Oh, that's like, you shouldn't be asking us that. You shouldn't be going, I'll just that bunny lay eggs, bro. I've never seen a rabbit lay an egg in my life.
How can you come down the chimney?
I'll just that fella come down, and that's all I was told me. How does he get down that chimney and he's spotless? I couldn't work out, I had a white beard and it wasn't caked and stuff. And I was me as a kid going, this is weird. How does he always look so clean? Well, I shouldn't have been asking that question. I should have been saying to me mum, hey mum, why are we doing this? Why are we having this Passover meal? Because that's what the Creator's saying. When your children ask you, what do you mean by this service? You'll say, verse 27, then you'll say, it's that Passover sacrifice of Yahovah, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he struck the Egyptians and delivered our households. So the people bowed their heads and worshipped. Then the children of Israel went away and did so, just as Yahovah had commanded Moshe and Aaron, so they did. Now let me just read you this from Hebrews 11:28. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 28 says this. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 28. By faith. Don't think for 1 minute the Old Testament is not about grace and faith. It's all about grace and faith. This was God's grace saying, take a lamb. And it's all by faith that they got saved. It says, by faith Moshe forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king. For he endured as seeing him who is invisible. See that? Moses endured seeing him who is invisible. We don't walk by sight. We walk by faith. We walk by faith. And that's a great word, John. Thank you. We walk by faith. He endured as seeing him who is invisible. By faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of the blood, lest he who destroyed the firstborn should touch them. By faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, whereas the Egyptians, attempting to do so, were drowned because they were in faith. And that's the message of the gospel from the beginning to the end. It's by grace through faith. God's grace is extended and your job is to receive it by faith. And that's exactly how Israel got out of Egypt here.
But you know, sorry Steve, you know, in verse 22, it says, then none of you is to go out the door of his house until the morning.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? You had to stay inside.
Oh yeah.
They went outside.
Abide in the shadow of the
You had to be in the house. Amen. You need to be in the Messiah.
Yes.
Amen. And we need to stay there.
It's a warning, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what Yeshua said. Abide in me.
Yeah.
Let my words abide in you.
Yes.
Then you will be my disciples and you'll know the truth. And the truth will set you free. Verse 29, and it came to pass at midnight that Jehovah struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. So this could be like our men, this. You know, I'm getting to be an our man now, and I'm the only born to my mum. I was a firstborn, so I'd be getting covered if I didn't put the blood on. It wasn't just babies, it's like,
Yeah, well, the firstborn.
it's all the firstborns, no matter how old you are.
Did you the first one?
Verse 30, so Pharaoh rose in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. The death of the firstborn. We're not going to have a chance now. Chapter 13, it only goes to verse 16. I'm going to spend the rest of the time on this next bit. Chapter 13 only goes to verse 16 tonight, and that is all about the consecration of the firstborn. It's God saying, you've got to redeem the firstborn now. And I will just read this verse now, because we're not going to finish it. Chapter 13, verse 13 says this. Verse 12. Verse 11, chapter 13, verse 11, then we're going to go back. And it shall be, chapter 13, verse 11, when Jehovah brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, and gives it to you, that you shall set apart to Jehovah all that open the womb. That is, every firstborn that comes from an animal which you have, and all the males shall be yours. But every firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. What's this all about? And if you will not redeem it, then you shall break its neck. And all the firstborn of man among your sons you shall redeem. What is that all about? You've got to redeem all the firstborn and all the animals, but a donkey has to be redeemed with a lamb. What is that about? Well, what's that about? Is God trying to communicate to human beings? You're all like donkeys.
Yeah.
You're all stubborn like donkeys. You're all stiff-necked like donkeys. That's the way donkeys operate. They're just carnal beasts. They just can't help being what they are. They're stubborn like mules. They're just stiff-necked animals. They won't submit. And so donkeys, like human beings, that's what I mean. God's trying to get the message across to here. Like, I'm not trying to offend you as humans, but to me, you're like a pack of donkeys. You don't bow to me, you don't submit to me, you just got stiff-necked. Well, you need to be redeemed by a lamb. And that's what he's communicating. Because of your rebellious nature, because you take after your father Adam, because you've been all born in sin, you all need to be born again through the Lamb. Through the death of the Lamb. And by faith, you can become children of God. And that's what that's there for. Just to equate human beings with donkeys. To go, that's what you're like. You're like donkeys. And donkeys need to be redeemed by a lamb, because human beings need to be redeemed by a lamb. That's the way the word of God writes to us, just so you can see simply what's going on. Because it's mad, isn't it? If you can't redeem a donkey with a lamb, it's just to get that message across that we are like donkeys with our own stiff will. Submit, because if you don't submit to the lamb, you will get your neck broke. You will have your neck broke, in whatever that means, but it's not very pleasant. Right, so the last 15, 20 minutes, I really want to focus on this next bit now. Back into chapter 12. Can we just read this bit? Yeah, let's just read it and get to where we want to get. Verse 31, where we left off. Chapter 12, verse 31. Feels a little bit erratic tonight, but if you go over it again yourself and read it yourself, things will come back to your remembrance. The Holy Spirit, your teacher, and say it every week. You've got the Sabbath tonight and tomorrow. Please just read these portions on yourself. Please, before you do, pray and say, Father, please, Psalm 119, open my eyes that I may see the wonderful things in your Torah. Please, Father, help us to be studiers of your word, and not on our own, not like stubborn donkeys, but submit it to you and ask you to be our teacher. Thank you. So I'll just trust that to you. I'll read the next few verses, then I'm going to spend as much time as I can in this fantastic mystery that's been revealed to me this week. Verse 31, then he called for Moshe and Aaron by night and said, this is Pharaoh, exactly what God said, rise, go out from my people, both you and the children of Israel, and God save Yahovah, as you have said. Also take your flocks, take your herds, as you've said, and be gone, and bless me also. And this is this fellow who thinks he's God. He's just completely capitulated now. He has just totally got the white flag out now. But don't be deceived. He'll be back next week. He'll be back next week with all his armies trying to get them back. Oh, we're going to get them back. This fella is he's a hard case. Literally a hard case. And always remember what Romans 9 says. God said, I raised this fella up for this. I know what he's going to do. I'm going to use this character to do this. To glorify his name and to let us know who he is and to be able to relate this story throughout our generations. This is not once upon a time. This is what happened. Verse 33, the Egyptians urged the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we are all dead. Verse 34, so the people took their dough before it was leavened, having their kneading bowls bound up in their clothes on their shoulders. Now the children of Israel had done according to the word of Moshe, and they had asked from the Egyptians articles of silver, articles of gold, and clothing. And Yahovah had given the people favour in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they granted them what they requested. This is amazing. Favour of God. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. Verse 37, then the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Sukkot, about 600,000 men on foot, besides children. A mixed multitude went up with them also. So you've got 600,000 men of the children of Israel and their children and the families, but also a mixed multitude came out with them. People that had seen this. We read it last week when the cattle got killed from not in Goshen, and the Egyptians were like, there's something going on here. People were getting a message. People were getting grafted in to this nation of Israel. They wanted to join them. Let's get out of this. Let's join Israel. Their God truly is God. Amen. So the mixed multitude went up with them also, and flocks and herds, a great deal of livestock. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they had brought out of Egypt, for it was not leavened because they were driven out of Egypt and could not wait, nor had they prepared provisions for themselves. Now this is where I wanted to get to. Get ready now. If you're all worn out now, because we've gone on, just have a little quick breather. Brace yourself for the next 10 minutes, because I want your attention for this. I want you to understand this, please, because this has been never really been understood. Never really been understood. It has now. And I said this last night when I just ran it by you. This is what I believe. If I'm wrong, God please help me to not be an error. And I don't want to infect you with any error. I trust you enough to go before God and ask him to reveal the truth to you. Right? I believe that he will. So this is just to be considered, but I'm going to say it like I know what I'm on about. I'm going to pretend I know what I'm on about, and just say it with some authority, that like as if I know what I'm talking about.
You said it with authority, not pretend.
Well, I know, but you know what I mean now. Look what it says here. And we mentioned this the last few weeks. Verse 40. Now the sojourn of the children of Israel who lived in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of 430 years on the very same day. So you've got to be asking yourself now, what day? What's this about? Well, it's clear what day we're talking about, isn't it? What day are we talking about here? It's Passover, isn't it? This is a Passover event. And Moses is saying, 430 years ago, on this very day. So it was a Passover event 430 years ago. On this very day it came to pass that all the armies of Yahovah went up from the land of Egypt. It is a night, I love this phrase, of solemn observance. Let's get into doing some of that. I want to observe
Actually, when they went into Egypt, the Lord had protected them from famine by bringing them in, so that He protected their lives coming out.
Amen.
He protected them from the famine by letting them.
That's what they went into Egypt for. Yeah. So it's a night of solemn remembrance to Yahweh for bringing them out of the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yah, a solemn observance for all the children of Israel throughout their generations. And you've got to know what the New Testament teaches, that we are Israel. We haven't replaced anyone, but we have joined and grafted in. We're wild branches, it says. And God broke off some of the natural branches so that we could be grafted in, but He will graft in again the natural branches, and we'll all live happily ever after, and we will be Israel of God. So this is for anyone who considers themselves an Israelite. I consider anyone who is in the Messiah an Israelite. So that's that. So let me go back over this now. What's going on here? Please, what is going on? The sojourn, verse 40 of the children of Israel was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, on the very same day, it came to pass. So, what happened 430 years ago? What happened 430 years ago? Well, before we tell you that, let's just have a quick reminder of Genesis chapter 15, verse 13, what God said to Abraham. And we have mentioned this a few times over the last few weeks. It's so important. Genesis chapter 15, verse 13, God said to Abraham, "No, certainly, your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and they will serve them, and they will afflict them 400 years. 400 years. And when we read this last week, it carried on. And now the nation whom they serve I will judge. Afterward they shall come out with great possessions." That's what we just read. God told Abraham this years ago, and it's happening tonight in this Torah portion. So He's going to bring them out with great possessions. "As for you," verse 15, "you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried at a good old age." In the fourth generation, and we've done that last week, and it wasn't taped. If you remember last week in Exodus chapter 6, we've seen them 4 generations, didn't we? Levi, he was in Egypt, and he had a son called Kohath, and Kohath had a son called Amram, and Amram had a son called Moshe, and that was 4 generations. Exactly like God had said, in the 4th generation, they shall return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. So, here's the details. God said to Abraham a period of 400 years. Moshe is mentioning a period of 430 years. And I've asked people this, and I have been seeking an answer to this, and I mean this for the last 3 or 4 years. What's this mean? What's going on? Did God just forget about it for 30 years? I said 400 years, but you know what? I've been so busy, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm 30 years late. Is that what happened? Is that what happened? Did God get 30 years wrong? Is Moses lying? Has Moses got his clock wrong? What's going on there? Why has God said to Abraham 400 years? And why is Moses saying 430 years? What is going on here?
Because he was waiting for Isaac to be born.
We're getting close, and we're getting very close. Very close, but let me prove now. And I'm saying I've already qualified. If I'm wrong, I don't want to be wrong, please. Not for the crowd's sake, just because you always want to be wrong about the word of God and spout a load of rubbish. So you examine this, and if this is wrong, someone address it next week, please. Someone come with a rebuttal and stand here and go, "Listen, he's an idiot, him," and show us the truth. I mean that. If anyone's watching in America, get over here on a plane. Well, I'm going to show you now. And I'd say it's easy this. Go away, I said this last night to you. Genesis 15, there's your 400 years. What you read tonight, Exodus 12, there's your 430 years. Wait till you see what this is about. Oh, wait till you see. And see how connected this is. Galatians 3. You'll see how connected this is with the theme of tonight, which is where we started off, the Lamb of God. This is all to prove that the Lamb of God is a lamb of the first year. I'm going to show you now. So just a bit of like, you know, it was only 10, let's say we go 5 minutes over, let's finish this in 10 minutes. It's Galatians chapter 3 now, so just please try and absorb this and go away and read these things. Genesis 15, Exodus 12, is the answer coming up now. Galatians chapter 3. And for the sake of time, we haven't got time to read it all, but this is one of my favourite verses in the Bible, so I've got to read it. Galatians chapter 3 verse 8 says this: there's scripture, hallelujah for the scripture, there's scripture foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith, preach the gospel to Abraham beforehand, saying, in you all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Right, verse 15. I want to read all of this.
Oh my God.
Well, that's give me 5 more minutes then. Verse 10. For as many as are of the works, that's a bad translation, it's outside of the works, and it qualifies itself with the next verse. For as many as are outside of the works of the law are under a curse, for it's written, see, it qualifies it, this is what Paul's on about. Yeah. Cursed is everyone who does not continue in these things which are written in the book of the law to do them, but that no one is justified by the law in the sight of God is evident. For the just shall live by faith. Yet the law is not of faith, but the man who does them shall live by them. Messiah has redeemed us from the curse of the law. I mean, you know how badly quoted that's been. It doesn't say the Messiah has redeemed us from the law, because that law was horrible. No, it says he's redeemed us from the curse of the law. What was the curse of the law? Death! Death for anyone who doesn't obey him. Messiah has redeemed us from the penalty of death, it's saying. He's not done away with it all. Having become a curse for us, for it's written, cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree. This is the point now. So that Messiah did all of that. Messiah died on the cross. Messiah became a curse for us. So that, what for? So that the blessings of Abraham, the blessings of Abraham, this is the gospel. The gospel was preached to Abraham. I know you love it. The blessings of Abraham, I know it's lovely, we get on. The blessings of Abraham might come upon the Gentiles in the Messiah Yeshua, that we might receive. Now, I've got to even stand up to the man. I just get carried away. That we might receive the promise of the Spirit. What's this about? The Messiah became a curse for us, so that we might receive the blessings of Abraham and the promise, that's what I want you to remember, of the Spirit through faith. Brethren, I speak in a manner of men, though it's only a man's confidence, yet it is confirmed, no one can and no more add to it. This is what Saul says, do not add to, do not take away from it. No one can add to or more from it. Now here's the verse. Now to Abraham and his seed. Do you want me to sit down again? I'll sit down again. Last 5 to 10 minutes. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made, the promises. He doesn't say and to seeds as of many, but as one. And to your seed, that is Messiah. Now here's the verse now. 430 years. You want to know when this 430 years started? Paul's going to tell you. And this I say, that the law, which was 430 years later, cannot annul the covenant that was confirmed before by God in the Messiah, that it should make the promise of no effect. For if the inheritance is of the law, it is no longer a promise, but God gave it to Abraham by promise. Right? So you've got now, I want to sit down. Sorry. You've got 400 years and you've got 430 years. What's this 430 years about? What's this 430 years about? Paul has told you. The 430 years was not when Isaac was born. It was when the promise was made, right? So let's just wonder, what could that be? We know, we've already established, Moses has told us, it was 430 years ago. On the very same day, it was a Passover event. This was you're going to see this now, and you're going to love it. It was a Passover event 430 years ago that the promise was made. That's evidence. It'll be even clearer when you go through it yourself. We'll go to Genesis 22, because this is that day. This is that day. I know it's the truth. I just think, I'm scared how much I know it's the truth. I'm going to feel it, I mean it. It's been the joy of my life this week. Genesis 22. And I'll explain, because we do the chronological Gospels, we're trying to show that Yeshua didn't have a 3.5-year ministry. If God wanted the rabbits, he'd have said, get the rabbits, worship the rabbits of God. If he wanted the bunny, if he wanted a 3.5-year-old sheep, he would have said, get a 3.5-year-old sheep and I'll worship the sheep of God, or the ram of God. He wanted a lamb. He wanted a lamb. And when John the Baptist proclaimed that Yeshua is the Lamb of God, anyone at that stage who knew what they were on about should have realised this Yeshua's only got a year to go, because if he's the Lamb, he's going to have to be dead in a year. He's the Lamb of God. This is Genesis 22. This is the promise. And I've never said this before, because I've never had this understanding. And I can't believe how simple it is. I'm saying to you that Genesis 22 is the event that Moses is talking about 430 years ago, and it's a Passover event. How obvious is it now that Genesis 22 is a Passover event when it says things like this in chapter 22 verse 3. Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and he split the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place afar off. And in verse 6, so Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac, his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the two of them went together. When we study this, it's that word Yachid. They went as one. The father and the son, Abraham and Isaac, went as one. And that's what Yeshua said. I and the Father are one. That's why this language is beautiful. So they went together as one. But verse 7, Isaac spoke to Abraham his father and said, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. Then he said, look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb? Where's the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, my son, God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering. So the two of them went together as one. And we haven't got time, I'm not going to read it all, it's over to you. Genesis 22, you can read it yourselves. How clear is that a Passover event? Isaac's carrying his wood to the mountains of Moriah, which is Jerusalem, which is where Yeshua was crucified. It's a Passover event, but this is the point I want to get to. Verse 15, it's all about the promise, you see. Then the angel of Yahweh called out to Abraham a second time out of heaven and said, this is why it's the promise, watch, and said, by myself I have sworn, says Jehovah. This is the gospel message now, what we just read about in Galatians. Because you've done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son, blessing I will bless you. And multiplying, I will multiply your descendants as the stars of the heaven and as the sand which is on the seashore. And your descendants shall possess the gates of their enemies. In your seed, this is the gospel, Galatians 3:8. In your seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham, because mates, you have obeyed my voice. Because you obeyed my voice, Abraham. Because you didn't spare your only son Isaac. Because you stretched out your hands, Abraham. Because of that, all the nations of the earth are going to be blessed. And I, God Almighty, am swearing that on oath. That's what we call a promise. That's what you call a promise based on a Passover event. This is what Moses is saying. 430 years ago, on this very same day, Abraham was willing to offer up Isaac, and God sealed the deal then. This is what you call grace. It's not about merit. It's called yous and me are heirs of salvation tonight because Abraham obeyed God's voice.
Amen.
And Yeshua came in that, and he could then say, Father, not my will, your will be done. Your will be done here. And that seals our salvation. I haven't finished yet. That's 430 years ago. So what's this 400 years about? What's the 400 years about? Well, this is where it might click now. And if it doesn't, don't worry, please. Don't worry, please. Meditate on these things. These are so important. And I mean, this is so important to understand. That's why I'm so excited. What happens? So this is 430 years ago. So where's the 400 years come into it? Well, I'm not like a genius or nothing, but 430 minus 400 is 30. So if this happened 430 years ago, something must have took place 30 years later. That fair?
Yeah,
What?
Isaac was born.
What?
Isaac was born.
Jacob was born, you mean? Isaac's Genesis 22. Isaac's...
Jacob, yes, sorry.
Yeah, Jacob. Perfect, Joe. That's exactly the answer. That's the answer. 30 years later, Jacob was born. And you got this last night, didn't you? What God was saying to Abraham in Genesis 15 was all to do with his descendants. That's what he was saying to Abraham. God was saying to Abraham, your descendants are going to be in a land that's not theirs. They are going to come under servitude and they're going to be afflicted. And that all started, the clock of that time started with the birth of Jacob. Right, so you can start to deduce things now. 430 years ago, to this very same day, Isaac was the sacrifice. 30 years later, Jacob was born, and the clock started for the 400 years. What do you deduce from that? Quite simply, Isaac, and I've been wanting to say this for so long, you know, and I've held back and gone, I can't say this until I know it. Now, I know it. I tell you, Isaac was 30 years old when this happened. When Isaac walked up the hill, he wasn't 4 or 5, he wasn't a little kid. He wasn't 37, as some of the rabbinic teachers is. He was, I'm telling you right now, 30 years old. Why is that important? Why is that connected to the lamb of the first year? This is why, because it tells us in Luke very clearly, Yeshua began his ministry about 30, it says, doesn't it? Yeah. About 30. And that doesn't mean that Luke was standing there and he said, hey mate, how old is that Jesus? And he went, he's about 30. I went, oh, sorry, he's about 30. No, it's like a very accurate Greek word, Hose. He was Hose 30. It meant he hadn't reached 30 yet. It meant exactly, Yeshua is 29. Yeshua began his ministry about 30. It doesn't mean, well, he could have been 35 on a bad day, but when he's had a bit of a shave and had a bloody wash, he looks about 25. He looks sound on a good day. It's not, I guess, he's about that, he's about 30. It means he was exactly 29. That's what the Greek word means. Yeshua began his ministry at the age of 29. Yeshua ended his ministry. Well, Yeshua was crucified as the Lamb of God at the age of 30, just like Isaac, shadow picture of that. And I can't say any more. I'll just start wrapping up now, because that's enough information for you to consider this and to weigh it all up. And
when he's saying that, Steve, well, why does it say when he was 30, about 30, he started his ministry? For 3 years.
Yeah, but don't say it's 3 years.
This is what it says in the so-called Bible.
Doesn't
hang on a second, just a second. Now it says that when Abraham went up with his son, it also said he was a teenager, more or less.
Doesn't
it doesn't say he was a youth.
Well, it might say lad in our translation,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean he's
But
kidding.
then again, it's see, what we're going to take into the context of what we're doing. The King James.
Benjamin was 13, he was called a lad.
Good points. Benjamin had 10 kids and he would call him a lad.
And well, this is, so really our King James is not really.
Well, it's just translation issues.
Yeah.
And we're probably translating it thinking he's a kid, so they write it this way. You know what I was saying here? I know the names that have been, thank God it's been recorded or not, maybe.
Well, this is it.
But you can revisit
That's
this.
what I'm saying. I heard this Jewish lady about 3 months ago, and she's born again, and her husband's born again. And so what they've done is, we're reading the old King James and that, and he said, no, we were going to look back, and we were going to look back from the Hebrew point of view. And then we said, what you're saying things is what we're just saying about things of ages and all that.
Yeah.
Correcting things, in a sense.
Yeah.
From the Hebrew point of view.
That's why I'm so like that about this. I'm just saying to you, I'm bringing it to you, presenting it to you. You've got to go away and check it out. And don't check it out.
Oh, yeah.
Don't check it out through the lens of tradition and through the lens of what other people are saying. Check it out from the word of God. Sorry, Graham, go for it, bro.